right, so influencer marketing, it's everywhere you look online these days, right? But do we really buy it? I mean, those endorsements, are they really genuine? You sent over some research on this and, well, it's got me thinking.
Well, what's so fascinating about this research is, it tries to get inside the influencer's head. Like, how do they decide who to work with? These decisions, they can make or break their career.
It's a real balancing act, isn't it? Trying to stay true to yourself while also building a successful brand. And this research goes beyond just like observations. They're using actual mathematical models to understand this. How followers grow, how the money works, the whole thing.
Yeah, it gets pretty complex.
It does. But before we dive into all that, let's talk about that Instagram influencer. What was her name? Shut the Pakilip. You highlighted her in your notes. A real world example.
Shut the Gatalup. Yeah, she's a classic case study, right? She started out strong, very focused, healthy eating, all about the food, those bright, colorful food photos, smoothie recipes.
Oh, yeah, I know the type. And it worked. Her audience ate it up, so to speak. She built up a following, 250,000 followers pretty quickly, right? By sticking to that niche.
Exactly, yeah. But then, that's where it gets interesting. This is where the influencer's dilemma kicks in, you see. Do you stick with what works, what got you there, or do you branch out, maybe make some more money? Even if it means, maybe you lose a bit of that authenticity along the way.
And it seems like Shuttle Up, she went for the latter option. She started endorsing things like, tracksuits, watches. Not exactly what you'd expect, right?
Definitely a shift. And the result was, her followers, they did keep growing, but much slower. Over the next, 5 years, she only added another 100,000.
Wow. See, that's a pretty big difference. Now, I know we can't say for sure that's the only reason, but it makes you wonder, right? Did those endorsements alienate that core group of followers she had?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what these researchers are trying to figure out. They have this model, you see, with these two types of followers. They call them the core group and the mainstream group.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break that down for me.
So the core followers, those are like the diehards, the ones who are really into that specific thing the influencer is known for. So if they see an endorsement that feels off, they're more likely to be turned off. You got it. Spot on. They're the ones who feel it the most when an influencer steps outside their lane, And then you have the mainstream followers. They're a little more, shall we say, flexible. They're not as bothered if the influencer promotes a wider range of stuff.
So it's like this balancing act for influencers. Do you cater to that core group, grow more quickly, but maybe miss out on some deals? Or do you try to appeal to everyone and risk losing those really dedicated fans?
And that's the question they tackled head on. They used something called a game theory model to simulate different strategies. What happens to the influencer who does this? What happens if they do that?
Okay, now hold on. A game theory model. Help me understand this a little better. How does that even work?
It's basically a mathematical way of looking at strategic decision making. Like, what's the best move for the influencer to make given all these different factors? And the key thing they found, the really interesting thing, is that starting with authenticity, it's often the most strategic move. It's like building a foundation. You grow quickly at first, build up that trust, and then later on, you have more flexibility to branch out, maybe go for those bigger endorsements.
So it's about playing the long game.
Exactly. And it's interesting, right? Because if you think back to Shut the Gickle Up, it lines up. She built that loyal following early on by focusing on her niche. But when she switched gears too quickly, it seemed to have an impact.
And this is where it gets really interesting for me, because this isn't just about some theoretical influencer world, right? This is about all of us. We're the ones seeing these endorsements every day. So how does this research change how we should be thinking about what we're consuming online?
That's the big question, right? Well, think about it. Have you ever followed an influencer, you really like their content, it feels genuine, and then over time, they start pushing products that just seem totally random? Does that make you question their recommendations?
All the time. It's like, wait a minute, I thought you were all about pod, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Definitely makes you think twice.
For sure. And brands are paying attention to this too. They're realizing that partnering with the right influencers, the ones who really resonate with their audience, it's crucial. And this is especially true for smaller influencers who are just starting out.
Now that's interesting. Why is it more important for them? You'd think they'd just take any deal they could get.
It's all about building trust, building a name for yourself. They need to attract those followers quickly, and they can't afford to alienate them by pushing products that don't fit.
So it's like an investment. Being picky now pays off later.
Exactly. Now, that being said, there are exceptions, right?
Oh, I can think of a few. Like, what about when you see those ads with young athletes, like a tennis star, suddenly endorsing luxury cars? It always seems a bit strange to me.
Yeah, it does make you wonder. And the researchers actually address this. They talk about the difference between celebrities, like those tennis stars, and social media influencers.
Okay, so what's the difference then? Why do celebrities seem to play by a different set of rules?
It all comes down to where their fame comes from. Celebrities, they've got that pre-built fame, right, from outside the world of social media. They're not starting from zero like a lot of influencers are.
Right. They've already made it big, whether it's winning championships or starring in movies. They come to social media with fans already, you know?
Exactly. So they don't need to obsess over every new follower like someone who's still building their platform. There's less pressure to be, perfectly curated all the time.
So they have more freedom to try different types of endorsements, even if some fans find it a bit odd. But does it even work? I mean, are people really buying luxury cars because a tennis player is in the ad?
That's the question, isn't it? And it shows you where these models have their limits. It can tell us a lot about how influencers behave, but measuring, what actually convinces a customer, that's a whole other story.
It's like that old saying, you can lead a horse to water, you can show people the ad, but you can't make them buy it.
Exactly. But speaking of interesting dynamics, did you find that part about follower turnover interesting? How having a high turnover can actually make influencers more likely to stick to their niche.
Yeah, that was a bit of a head scratcher at first. You'd think constantly needing new followers would make them want to take any deal, right? Authentic or not.
You would, wouldn't you? But picture this. You've got an influencer all about baby products. Cute baby photos, stroller reviews, parenting tips, that kind of thing.
Okay, I can see it. And people love that stuff.
They do, but it's also a niche where people naturally move on. Kids grow up, parents go through different phases, and there's always new parents coming online looking for advice and recommendations.
So instead of chasing those one-off deals, it makes more sense to focus on what works. Create that authentic content for your audience, even if that audience is always changing a bit.
That's the key. It's about attracting that new wave of parents coming in. They're looking for someone relatable.
It's like the opposite of those, what are they called? Those tourist trap places.
Oh, you mean the ones that overcharge for, cheap souvenirs?
Yeah. They know the tourists won't be back to complain, so quality goes down. But for these influencers, it's the opposite. High turnover actually rewards authenticity.
Funny how that works, huh? Yeah. Shows you how complex this influencer world is. But let's shift gears a bit. The research also talks about this idea of partial authenticity, which I think is a really important point.
Yes. Because nobody's 100% on brand all the time, are they? Even the most genuine influencers probably promote something occasionally that's a bit off. I've always wondered, does that make them more relatable? A little bit of off-brand behavior.
Now, that's a good question. And the researchers actually looked into it. How does their model change if we allow for influencers to be, mostly authentic, but not perfectly so?
And what do they find? Does it make a difference?
Well, it's not a simple answer. It depends, right? The influencer, their audience, what kind of product. But sometimes a bit of flexibility actually works in their favor. It's about finding that balance.
Staying true to yourself, but also, paying the bills. It's a tough one.
It is. And that balance is different for everyone. But you've reminded me of another big factor we haven't even touched on yet. The platform itself. Where an influencer is based, that changes things a lot. Take TikTok, for instance. Totally different ballgame compared to Instagram.
Oh, for sure. The way it works, the content, the whole feel. You have to wonder, how does authenticity even work on a platform where any video can go viral overnight?
You're on the right track. The researchers, they had an extension to their model just for that. Exploring how things shift when you have that viral potential.
All right, so TikTok then. Let's talk about how that possibility of going viral, how does that change things for influencers trying to stay true to themselves? So we're talking about TikTok viral fame and how that impacts an influencer's incentive to stay true to their niche. What did the research uncover about this?
Well, imagine this. You're an influencer, right? You've got, say, a few thousand followers, and bam, one of your sponsored posts. It goes viral. Millions of views, followers blowing up, like winning the lottery, but for social media.
Changes everything, right? Suddenly it's not about slowly building that audience anymore.
Exactly. And that's where the researchers, they found something really interesting. That viral potential, it actually can lead to more inauthentic endorsements, especially early on in an influencer's career, you see.
Makes sense if you think about it. If that mismatched endorsement goes viral, even if it turns off some existing fans, you're still getting tons of exposure. Worth it in the short term, maybe.
High risk, high reward.
Right.
It all comes back to how the platforms themselves, they change the game.
It's fascinating. This research, it gives us a good snapshot of now, but who knows what influencer marketing even looks like in a few years?
It's true. Things change so fast. And the researchers even say, there are more questions than answers. Like, could these platforms actually encourage more genuine endorsements? It's in their best interest, right?
If people are turned off by fake ads, they're not going to stick around. So maybe there's a way to make those connections between brands and influencers feel more, real.
Exactly. And on the flip side, how do influencers build a career out of this?
Yeah.
It's got to be tough. Balancing the need to make money with, not selling out completely.
No easy answers there. But I think for those of us scrolling through our feeds, this research is huge. It gives us a new way to think about what we're seeing.
I agree, 100%. And the researchers, they put it well. Next time you're scrolling and you see that influencer endorsement, just stop for a second. Who are they? Where are they in their career? Does this product even make sense for them?
It's about context. Understanding the motivations, the strategies, even the algorithms feeding us this stuff. We have to be smarter consumers of information online and offline.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, on that note, we'll leave our listeners with plenty to think about. The world of influencers, it's not so simple after all. Until next time, everyone.